This is ANN7's BizPulse. Thank you for joining us. I am Audrey Chimwanda. In our top story, grocery retail chain Pick n Pay has reportedly extended about R1 billion worth of credit to their customers who cannot afford to pay cash for their groceries. However, the retailer says such reports are inaccurate. At least 56,000 store accounts are reported to have been opened since September last year as cash-strapped consumers took up the offer. When the scheme was launched, the retailer faced a backlash from debt experts who argued that if people are buying groceries on credit, then they're already experiencing financial strain. Meanwhile, Pick n Pay strategy and corporate affairs executive David North says customers using the store card have used the credit facility well below 200 million rand. North further says the figure, which is 5 times lower than the reported billion, shows that a credit facility is used responsibly and customers are assessed carefully before approval. Now joining me in studio to discuss this further is Apostle BJ Langa, CEO for Africa Economy Network. We also have a social entrepreneur, that is Beki Khadebe. You're at home, are welcome to join the conversation. Our Twitter handle once again at ANN7 TV, or you can use my own, which is at Audrey Chimwanda. Gentlemen, welcome.
Evening.
What's your understanding of this credit facility that Pick n Pay seems to have extended to its customers? Is there a moral issue there, or is it just business? I'll start with you, Apostle.
Evening. No, I'll just say that food is a human right, and it's imperative to understand that first. Food is a human right, and everyone is entitled to have food of their choice in their household. But now the problem is how the business, the corporate world is actually introducing such credit facilities, especially in a time where South Africa, actually in terms of its consumers, have been under what we call an impaired. It's an impaired credit record. And moreover, that when you look at the spending that we have, our microeconomy cannot match our spending, and that dealeth with our macroeconomy. So it dealeth with the growth and the development of our domestic growth as South Africa, and that to it also, it disables us to participate in a global economy.
Right.
So I think it's immoral, for one, because you have the figures. The figures are telling you there that we had this kind, much in terms of millions of people that have been actually now blacklisted and are going through under administration, and for the reason why they've taken some credit in the past, and they were motivated by this retail businesses and all that, not looking at their circumstances,
right,
not looking at their stand.
And the responsibility of the business as well to say, can this person afford it, or am I just putting more stress on them? Becky, the desperation of having to buy food on credit, is it a reflection of how we failed as a country in terms of our economy, that people have to take this option, or are people just being manipulated, or is it an advantage to some who think, hey, hang on, I can just take this on credit and pay for it later?
Thank you, Audrey. I think we need to balance the discussion, but at the same time, we have to look at who are the people who pay the price. The people who do that are the consumers.
All right.
Now, the economic strata of the country indicates to us, and they tell us that these people that are targeted by these big retailers are low-income earners. And them being low-income earners, it puts a lot of strain to them as to how do they sustain paying the credits. Because at the end of the day, we can be well and happy and say that, we get credits, we are working and that, but the problem is it's repayment. You need to remember the story of African Bank, where it was loaning people loans irrespective of whatsoever. Now, the discussion I want to bring in here is that what makes me sad when I'm asked to talk about this topic is the non-consultative of consumers, that the consumers are not partaking to this. It's just a boardroom decision to say that we have to embed these people with so much that they need to pay. They will say how to pay, and then we'll credit them. Now that's where the thing comes to. But also one point is that I worry about the whole strata and the onogram that says that what is there to benefit for black entrepreneurs there? For guys in Soweto and Katlehong who are doing agriculture, are they supplying to these Pick and Pays?
And I want us to interrogate that point in just a second. I just want us to get to Neil Roots. Okay. He is the CEO of Debt Rescue. Perhaps you can give us your expertise, Neil, here with regards to the structure of the Pick and Pay credit facility. What is your understanding of it?
Well, the structure is basically what it comes down to is RCS is providing the credit to the consumers to buy whatever they want, and obviously they're granting loans between 1,000 and 40,000 rand to consumers to use to buy their goods. And the danger of that, in my opinion, is that what we're doing here is, or what Pick and Pay is doing here is sending the wrong message to consumers, in that they're basically saying that it is all right to finance your living expenses and your essential goods that you have to buy, like your groceries. Now, by default, if somebody finds themselves in a situation where they cannot pay cash for these essential goods like food and other groceries, then by default they are over-indebted and they need financial assistance. The last thing that they need at this stage is a loan, because a loan to buy these essential goods is just going to push them deeper into debt. And the reality is that if they buy goods on credit now, next month they would have to do the same, and the following month the same. And then at the end of the day, they're going to max out the credit facility of 40,000 rand, and then what are they going to do after that? Because now this has just pushed them over the edge where they now became over-indebted. So the reality is we have to rather send the message that if you cannot afford to buy certain goods, essential goods, with cash, then you shouldn't buy it at all. But credit is not the answer.
So is there anyone who regulates, these facilities to say, perhaps this is not the right way to go, perhaps people are indebted already with debt, pun intended. I mean, are stores just free to do, to offer this kind of service to people who are already constrained, people already having to deal with huge amounts of debt?
Yes, the National Credit Regulator is there to regulate credit, and also to make sure that when credit providers give out loans to consumers, that those consumers can actually afford to pay back these loans. But the reality is that with your unsecured loans, like in this case, we see that credit providers tend to give out credit much easier to credit or to consumers, because the risk is lower for them, and they do not necessarily assess people as stringently as they would when there's assets involved, like with home loans or vehicle finance. And also because of the fact that these are small loans. So if a consumer do raise the point that they have been granted credit recklessly, it is easy for those credit providers to just write off that debt. But the reality is also that with these consumers, because it's no secret that they are targeting the lower income people, because it's lower income people who would make use of this facility and finance their groceries or food. So they're targeting these people, and they do not always have access to legal representation. So it's lower risk for them to target these people. And at the end of the day, they know that not all these people will be able to pay back the money. Now, with regard to Pick and Pay, they don't run a risk, because it's not them giving out the loan, but it's RCS.
Wow. That is, quite an eye-opener. Thank you so much, Neil, for that insight. It appears there'll be a perpetual cycle of poverty and debt that is being created by some of these facilities, Apostle Langa.
Yes, yes, and Audrey, we need also to take in cognizance that with what has been said now by the gentleman, there are hidden costs, to this matter, because, I mean, Pick n Pay says they will be paying only 10 rand every month. But that's not the truth, because now Pick n Pay had to sign an agreement with RCS, and RCS also has terms and conditions. They are credit providers. So an FSP or a financial service provider who now comes into relationship and marriage with the retail store, then therefore you need to know that Pick n Pay can't say they're going to pay only 10 rand. There are hidden costs which will exacerbate the actual cost of the amount that one has taken in terms of those perishable goods. And at the end of the day, you need to go through and look at those terms and conditions that now on those fine prints, you will see there that if one doesn't pay, because, they are saying their excuse, or can I say now they are lying as they throw these credit lines. They are saying they are doing it in order to help the situation. But that's not how you can help the situation. You can only help the situation through education. We need economic emancipation, but also we need its literacy. People need to be educated, product literacy, to know the very product that they are actually taking in terms of this amortization of loan that has come forth through the principal, and which needs to be imparted with interest. As much as the person is not paying, then RCS has the right to also charge the person, also take him forth in terms of the debt collection, and if payments are not actually brought forward, then you will be now put under the impaired credit and be blacklisted, and it goes further like that.
Yeah.
And that's how you cripple the society of South Africa.
Yeah, thank you, Apostle. Becky, you wanted to interrogate the issue of the value chain, of some of the stores. Yeah, you can go ahead with that.
Okay, my issue of interrogating a value chain is that you need in this whole strata, we have to look at what is the benefit of the small and SMME in this whole, had they been consulted in this? Because we come from a period of 1% VAT, and this 1% VAT has cost many people. Personally, myself, petrol is up, and everything just went up, and it cost a wall. So where I worry is the participation of, like for example in Soweto, you have people who are doing agribusiness, and if you can really look at it, you will find that a few percentage they supply to these retailers, and the retailers are not taking their stock to say that they must participate. But now when I talk about retail, the benefit of a retail, that do SMMEs benefit here? Is a broad-based participation of small businesses. But now the point when Apostle was talking that I wanted to say is that we have to go back to some of the old ways we used to do. We have to go back to agriculture.
Yeah.
Sometimes a potato you can plow. Sometimes in a small garden, I think even the government has said we need to push to these things, because where we eat healthy food and organic food that are going to be very powerful. But this stance, where I'm having a problem, is this stance of having, should I say, big retailers, having people having to decide on the behalf of consumers, and the poor consumers who must bear the brunt. They must choose between education, food, taking care of their kids, and to service debt. But the point that the speaker said there is that I take that very serious, that it is because these companies know that these people don't have a legal recourse. That when they come after 3 months, when they say this pro rata of Pick n Pay is having a problem, these are the people who are going to bear the brand. And what's going to happen, they know they don't have legal representative. Then they're going to be exploited to pay back, and then creating a mayhem. So I feel that they are creating something that they're not going to. And I feel that in as much as we move with it, consumers will have a problem paying back, because when you're indebted, even if you can accept debt, but when you're indebted, you're going to have a problem to pay back.
Yeah, but there seems to be some kind of loophole somewhere, because if this is allowed to happen, if Pick n Pay is allowed to do this through a credit facilitator, beg your pardon, and there isn't a proper assessment to say, can these consumers be able to then pay back the money, and them not necessarily being worried about that, with them, obviously gaining an interest either way. Surely there's something that is not right there. Where's the loophole? Where are we not getting it right?
The loophole, as I had my learned friend was saying now, the loophole that we have now is that we have also undermined creation, and we have undermined the creator. You see, sometimes we talk of these things, but we need to know there are only two businesses that we are granted on earth, two of them. Which actually are becoming umbrella of all these businesses. We have agriculture and we have mining. So now these two businesses in South Africa are already being captured. That's the problem that we're having in South Africa. We don't mind Pick n Pay coming on board with credit facilities, but if they go in line, how about bringing on board the small businesses to come on board and say we are giving out loans? Yes. There's a credit facility for the SMMEs to come on board, and so they can start businesses and they can develop the land. Yes, develop the land. So we can go back to local markets, go back to those family gardens, where we also develop our own food, which are organic. I really support that. Yeah. So we're not defying the way of how they are bringing the credit facility. We're defying their target market, because they know that they are dealing with fragility. They are dealing with people who won't even go and absolutely raise out a lawsuit against these things. So we've got a loophole, and again, if NCR is able to begin to say now to license such a thing and say no, let it be, and as they began to now introduce it in September 2017. So our problem might not be only Pick n Pay. Yeah. So the lawfulness of this country is not, there's a need of revision and re-evaluation. So I could say in short that we need to redress all our financial systems and redress them, from the point of its judicial, and get to the point of where we actually now take the laws, legislate them towards the communities, so that people also can be taught these laws. In order, whether we say now these terms and conditions are right or not, and we defy them, or we're receiving them and accepting them. Right. So I think our problem and our loophole is right here on the lawfulness of our country.
And I want to believe Pick n Pay has some kind of social responsibility activities that they do, like most corporates and organizations go to the communities and try and plow back, so to speak. I think the Apostle has touched on some of those things, trying to get suppliers, SMMEs to come and supply for Pick n Pay. What else can they do going forward, do you think?
I think what the Apostle said, it rubbers to what I was talking about.
Yes, yes, sir.
You see the time of saying that people will take $1 billion out of a certain community and profit and make money and say that there is a CSI program. Audrey, a CSI program should be a CSI program that is not only charitable, but a CSI program that plows back in order to re-engineer other entrepreneurs and other stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, when you look at also these social responsibilities, they are not embedded in entrepreneurship to say that we want to redevelop, we want to include women in these chains, we want to, there's a young man from Togoza or Soweto or Mlazi, is supplying Pick n Pay, we have groomed them. The only social responsibilities that are geared towards us is to say that we went to a township, we gave people food, right. We gave people this, we have brought teddy bears, and people, we don't need that, because we invest in this community. Audrey, when we talk about this, with this issue, it's very passionate, because the money is not returning to us. Like Dr. Chika Onyeni have educated us in the capitalist nigger, that the money must rotate before, amongst the community, before it goes out. But here, what will happen to see is that Soweto has 5 million people, and they service all this corporate company. They take the money and take it out. What they do, they know that we social, they come and bring artists and perform. then that's our social responsibility. So the issue of social responsibility, it needs to be a stakeholder relation to say, what is it that we want it to be plowed back in the community? We have to dictate to say a certain percentage of a certain amount of money should say that we want a certain social responsibility, not a social responsibility that is a pity of us to say, yeah, we have maintained this. We have a child-headed families, we have child-headed households. So how do you really, out of these people, education, young people, entrepreneurship, and then redeveloping the township economy as much as the government is pushing. How does Pick n Pay come to part into that thing? To say that we have a 5 million return that we need to give back to the black communities and entrepreneurs. Do we give them Hyundai Pakis, those people who are doing agriculture, to be able to supply? What is the status quo of black businesses that supply products to Pick n Pay?
How about the small businesses also setting up perhaps, a business of their own, from their own produce? But I understand that, when the big boys are in town, they kind of, attract that market. So how do you juxtaposition the two? How do we get them also encouraged to be a part of this big pie so that, we don't obviously come back to this issue where people are having to get credit to buy food?
I think that must be done by these big boys, the Pick n Pays, and open the space for that. Right. They need to be an nexus that actually dealeth with such, so that as we develop and redevelop, meaning our communities. And I can also add on this one, we need also, because it shouldn't be only agriculture at a level. We need a revolution in terms of our industrial. You see, because what made South Africa to be what it is today in terms of its economy, there's been what you call an industrial periphery, whereby the big boys were not going that side. You'll have the small shops and those small supermarkets.
Apostle, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off there. We have the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is addressing the media and some of the residents in